3 questions for today. Does running make us better humans? And if so, is there such a thing as running too much? And so then, how much are normal humans supposed to be able to run? Let's do this. Safe motions. So, are we meant to run? Let's start with the big picture. I'm gonna just read the title of the article because it's quite self-explanatory. Leisure time running reduces all-cause mortality. All-cause mortality. Everything. If you run, you are less likely to die than if you don't run. No, that can't be true. This study followed 55,137 adults, ranging from the age of 18 to 100 years old. For 15 years, they compared those who ran and those who didn't run. And they found that running even less than 50 minutes per week, 51 minutes per week actually, was enough to reduce all-cause mortality by up to 50% compared to never runners. Which means that we're less likely to die young if we run as opposed to if we did not run. Whether it's because of cancer, cardiovascular disease, or any other form of death. I guess it doesn't take into account accidents or anything like that, huh? I don't know. But you might ask what happens to our joints, because it's great that we can live longer, but if we're in pain, then it's absolutely no fun. So there's a remarkable study that was published in 2020 up there. A group of scientists followed ultramarathon runners throughout a race across Europe. The race was 4,486 kilometers. It's a huge distance. They followed the runners with an MRI machine. I don't know if you realize how big an MRI machine, but that's a huge device. And they did MRIs on all sorts of body parts of those runners to study how their joints and their brains evolved throughout that race. Really cool stuff. Those researchers noted a significant degradation of all joints starting from 1,100 kilometers, which is not so surprising. Yeah, your joints will take a beating. But here's what's crazy. After 3,500 kilometers of running, the cartilages started to regenerate and the tendons started to thicken, which means that after a certain distance, actually running was really beneficial for the joints that were just a few thousands of kilometers before being damaged. Running repaired the joints. So let's go back in time a little bit right now. Back when we were hunter-gatherers, we didn't have that much strength, that much speed, or that many tools to hunt for our prey, to eat, for food. However, pretty much, we were able to outrun pretty much any animal on the planet. How did we do that? According to the books, we were really good at distance running. We could run after an antelope across the savannah until they collapsed or fell into a trap. Our anatomy back then, our biology, had some inside secrets that we still have the traces of today. First, our cooling system is really efficient. We sweat all over our body. It helps us cool down and keep our bodies at a relatively stable core temperature when we're running or exercising. Many other land animals use panting as a way to maintain their core temperature steady. That's why dogs are always like I think cheetahs also use their paws, but I think the primary way of maintaining the temperature is through panting. The problem with that is it interferes with breathing. So that was valid back then, still valid today. Well, you might have known the previous point. Now, point number 2, we have a built-in stabilizing system right behind our necks. It's called the nuchal line. It's something that horses and dogs have, and it prevents us from bobbing the head when we're running, like chickens. That stabilizes really well, actually, when we run. And it's something that our very, very early humans did not have. It appeared somewhat 2 million years ago. And so Lucy, the skeleton from 4 million years ago, apparently did not have that nuchal line. That's something that we evolved to have, and we think it's for running. At the very other end of our body, unlike many other running land animals, we do not have a tail. We have other stabilizers like the core and the glutes that help us stay nice and steady when we do those sharp turns without the need of this extra appendix, the tail. One of the most surprising remnants of our ancestors' running habits to me is actually what we call the runner's high. We get this high when we run. Not all animals do. We know that dogs love running, hamsters, rats, a few other animals run for fun, and scientists have studied this. What gives us that runner's high? We used to think it was endorphins, hormone, like a feel-good hormone. But the latest research seems to go more towards another substance that our body can create and release in our bloodstream, which is called endocannabinoid. I think that's how it's pronounced. Now, in this word, you might recognize this part. Endo means inside, cannabinoid, which means our body and that of dogs and hamsters and rats have their own way of creating their own inner cannabinoid. Isn't that great? And it's free. All you need to do is run. So what does that mean? In order for us to live forever and be healthy, we need to run every day, run to work, run back from work. Or is there a point where we run too much and our body starts to degrade because of running? Is running too much actually hurting us? Well, we know that starting from pretty much the age of 30 years old, roughly, our bodies will start wasting muscle. That's a fact. There are ways to counter that. Running is a form of exercise, so it helps to prevent that. However, if you run for very long distances, let's say, for example, a half marathon, then you will spend maybe up to perhaps 1,500 or 2,000 calories or kilocalories during that race, and you'll be pretty much dehydrated. All of that loss of fluids and nutrition will be quite hard to replenish within that day. But it's fine. You will manage. However, if you do that chronically, if every couple of weeks you run a half marathon, then you may not have enough energy in your nutrition to cover the needs for your long distance runs. So what does the body do? Your body's going to start creating energy starting from the proteins available in your muscles, which means it's going to start breaking down your muscles in order to create energy so that you can continue to run. That's called gluconeogenesis. So there may come a point where you're running so much that your body's gonna eat up your muscles from the inside. Cannibals. That's why you see most elite distance runners have this kind of physique. Of course, there's genetics. But if you compare to sprinters who have that kind of physique, because also they go to the gym, but still, you can clearly see that one type of running does tend to reduce the muscle volume compared to the other type of running. My point being, if you run too much, you may lose muscles, and that's not good because less muscles means more injuries. Now, back to that Trans-Europe race that we talked about earlier, the same researchers, when they did MRIs of the brain, they found something that's really shocking. At the end of the race, the runners had lost 6.1% of their gray matter in the brain. Their brains had shrunk after the race. Yeah, actually it makes sense. After an ultramarathon, I feel pretty dumb. I always feel dumb. I mean, let me know in the comments how you feel after an ultramarathon or long distance race. I feel dehydrated, exhausted, wiped out, definitely don't feel hungry. Do you guys feel hungry? And I kind of feel like I can't think. So before we move on, if you've learned anything new from this video, feel free to give it a like. My brother sent me this article that I think is quite interesting. It's very simplified, but maybe it'll motivate you to running. So they sorted by age group what every average person should be able to run. Let's start. From ages 10 to 14, you should be able to run 1 to 3 kilometers without stopping. At this age, you really want to make running fun, not a challenge. Teenagers from the age 15 to 19 should be able to run 3 to 8 kilometers without stopping. Of course, that depends on your experience or your level of general athleticism, your weight at this age, your height, everything will change. So there's variations in there. So from 20 to 30, you should be able to run without stopping roughly from 5 to 10 kilometers, depending on, how fast and how slow you run. It's up to you to find out what pace your body's comfortable to run at, and that's part of your runner's journey. After your 30s, this is when the muscles start to disappear, as I mentioned before, so the average human being should be capable of running from 4 to 8 kilometers, according to the article. And things go downhill from there, apparently. 3 to 7 kilometers from 35 to 39, 3 to 6 kilometers from 40 to 44, 3 to 5 kilometers from 40 to 49. I'm in there. Obviously, if you're a seasoned runner, you might run way more than that. And that's okay. We're talking about the average human being. And thereafter, which I think is interesting, from 50 plus and over, including 60 plus and more, the average human being should be capable of running 2 to 5 kilometers without stopping. That's really cool. I'll put a link to the article down in the description so you can have a read for yourself. So if you want to get the death-fending benefits from running, without the drawbacks, which is sarcopenia, wasting of muscles. I have a series of videos that explain why it happens, how you can prevent it, which specific muscles you need to develop for running, and I'll see you there. À bientôt.